In today's show, we talk about the Trailblazers' loss to the Warriors in a game that had major play-in, playoff, and draft lottery implications. Welcome to Locked On Blazers. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Trailblazers, your daily Portland Trailblazers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What up, world? It's your past first point guard and Trailblazers reporter, Mike Richmond. You are listening to another episode of Locked On Blazers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, available wherever you get podcasts and also on YouTube. Thanks for making this show your first listen. It's coming at you each and every weekday, Monday through Friday. So make it a part of your daily routine. Make it your first listen. Tell your friends to do the same. It's Locked On Blazers, your team every day. In today's show, we're going to talk about the Blazers' loss to the Warriors. This game had major play-in implications. It could have potential playoff implications if the Warriors can win enough games to get there and get a little bit of help from the Sacramento Kings. And it has major draft lottery implications, both for the Blazers' potential pick they're owed by the Warriors, as well as their own pick as they try to do the most noble thing possible you can do in April, which is accept losses as the savior of your franchise. Nothing more important than basking in an L. And quite frankly, for 43 minutes, it looked like the Blazers were going to pull off a stunner. Let's get into the game. We'll recap the game real quick, and then we'll get into all the odds and all things that came with it. Talk a little about Scoot Henderson's performance, too. Another one where he was good, and then he wasn't. The final 5 minutes for the Blazers were a mess. Let's do what we do, though. Fastest recap in the West. We'll talk the game first and then get into all the implications. Blazers lose this one 100-92. They're down 2 at the end of 1, down 3 at halftime, down 1 after 3. They were right in this game. 75-74 heading into the fourth quarter. Ryan Rupert scores early in the fourth quarter he misses a shot, gets his own rebound and gets a shot blocked, gets his own rebound or snatches up the rebound and hits a little turnaround. The Blazers take the lead in the fourth quarter and put themselves in position. They're up 6 with 9 minutes left. They've had games recently where they, even just Tuesday against the Pelicans, where they just kind of crumbled in the second half and really in the fourth quarter. But this is a game that they were in position to win. And the Warriors are playing without Draymond Green, without Klay Thompson. The Warriors are playing, this is the first of a back-to-back for them, and they basically need to win outs, and they've got major implications here. So they are in a position where the Warriors need to win, but they weren't playing all their guys because they think they can beat the shorthanded Blazers without it. And the Blazers are like, let's make it tough on them. And so there they are, up 6 with 9 minutes left. None of the Blazers players are playing. This is who they have, right? The injury report's long. They're playing young. It's Scoot and DA and some youngsters. Warriors rip off an 8-1 run, and then eventually take the lead for good on a Kevon Looney free throw with 5 minutes left, 87-86. But this is the midst of just a nightmare final 5.5 minutes for the Blazers. The 5.5 minute mark, the Blazers commit a shot clock violation. Then Kevon Looney gets fouled inside and it hits a free throw. Blazers take a timeout. Down 1, 5 minutes left. They've been in this game the whole time. They've gotten a fairly good game from Scoot Henderson, a pretty solid game, although not a very good shooting game from DeAndre Ayton. But really what they've been is they've been competitive. They've been physical. The game has been very physical. But the Warriors have clearly ratcheted up the defense over the previous 4 minutes, and the Blazers have not made a field goal. In almost over 4 minutes at this point, and they need to take a timeout, get their ducks in a row, and just kind of make sure they don't let the game slip away. And instead, coming out of the timeout, they turn the ball over. Immediately turn the ball over. Don't even get the ball inbounds. Scoot Henderson turns the ball over he's the sideline out of bound guy coming out of the timeout, and they call it timeout. In the final 5.5 minutes, the Blazers commit. They shoot 2 airball 3-pointers. They have the shot clock violation, 2 airball 3-pointers, and 2 turnovers coming out of ATOs. One at the 5-minute mark, one at the 3-minute mark. They go over 5 game minutes without scoring. And the game just slips away from them in the fourth quarter. Like that's it. They were right there and had a chance. The Warriors ratcheted up their defensive intensity a little bit. Like I said, this game was super physical, and the Blazers just couldn't hang like chains and giraffes, and they lose 100-92. That's your fastest recap in the West. I don't think there's like a great deal of shame in losing this game. And I don't think there's a great deal of shame in playing 43 good minutes with the roster that the Blazers currently have against the roster that the Warriors trotted out tonight, and then having it all crumble down in the final 5.5, 42.5 minutes and 5.5 minutes, right? I don't think this is some sort of like shameful loss that you should shake your fists at the sky and all those things. For the most part, the Blazers, it's good that they lose this time of year. I am of the opinion, though, like that on the grand scale, losses are good, but like in the games, when you get into the games themselves, I never find myself saying like they should lose. It's like you play to win the games once you get into the games, and then afterwards I kind of say, okay, well, losses are fine, but I do think the final 5 minutes and the end of the game kind of sort of similar to the other night against the Pelicans. It's just like you kind of see that other teams have a level, right? And the Blazers, they got some good games from for the most part from Scoot and DA. They're top two guys, right? They got 18 and 12 from Scoot Henderson, but he really struggled after halftime. DeAndre Ayton missed his first 5 shots, 0 for 5 from the floor, and then kind of got going. From there, he was 12 of 19 from the floor, but he finishes 12 of 24, but 25 points and 11 boards, 17 and 16 from Jabari Walker and 14 from Chris Murray. A weird Steph game where he just could not make threes early in this game. I thought the Blazers, they gave a bunch of guys opportunities to sort of see if they could guard him. Chris Murray got some chances. Justin Minaya got some chances. Ryan Rupert got some chances. And they were competitive. Ashton Hagens got some chances. Ashton Hagens just like straight up grabbing Steph Curry's jersey, like truly as physical defense as you could play. But like, I think they did a good job of at least being like, keeping, chest to chest with him and being physical with him before he gets the ball. And also I think Steph just was like shooting bricks a little bit in the first part of this game. He finished 22 points on 22 shots, 5 of 16 from 3, but did his damage late. Warriors got 19 from Jonathan Kuminga, 15 from Andrew Wiggins. And I thought Kevon Looney had a really nice fourth quarter, and he finished with 9 points and 11 boards. Scoot finishes with 18 and 12. But he was cooking early, y'all. He had 10 points in the first quarter. He hit 2 threes. He had a bucket inside. He got a foul on Chris Paul. Thought it was a clean strip, but got a foul inside, hit 2 threes, had another bucket at the rim. 10 points. 10 points in that first quarter. Both threes are off the dribble. He's been much better, as the numbers at least suggest that he's been a much better off the dribble 3-point shooter than he is a catch and shoot guy. He can get his rhythm early on. The first play of the game gets his rhythm and takes a corner 3. Later takes it like a true step back where he hops back behind the 3-point line when he was inside of it. And it's like he's cooking, and he was playing well. And he had 3 turnovers in the first half. And listen, that's still like, that's on pace for 6, which would be a ton. But like, point guards are going to turn the ball over a bunch. Like, if you're going to have the ball in your hand as much as Scoot does, you're going to turn the ball over. Obviously, like 3 for a half is probably too many. 3 for a game is probably more in the range where he should be, right? But like, he was playing really well in the first half against a good defensive team, against a good team, period, even if they're missing their guys, and had them in it. And the second half was just brutal. It's just a brutal second half from Scoot. After halftime, he was 3 of 10, 0 of 4 from 3, and committed 6 turnovers. He had another 6 dimes. He had 6 in the first half, 6 in the second half, but 6 turnovers. In the final 5 minutes alone, like in the final 5 minutes, Scoot Henderson turned the ball over 3 times of a close game, 2 on ATOs. He's passing. That's after timeout plays. He's inbounding the ball with the 5-minute mark and the 3-minute mark with the game's kind of slipping away at the 3-minute mark and he turns the ball over and makes sure that it slips gone. But like at the 5-minute mark, they're down 1 with the ball. Get a good shot, like get yourself into something. Honestly, get DeAndre Ayton a touch. Like that's what the Blazers needed. He was sort of that settling presence after he struggled early in the game. It's like get DeAndre Ayton a touch and see if he can score. He's the guy the only player in the Blazers who scored in the final 5 minutes of this game. And he turns the ball over. I don't think like this isn't, Scoot struggled all year, so it's not like this game is particularly meaningful in terms of like the Scoot experience, but it's the good with the bad type of thing that I think we continue to see from him, is that he has these moments where it's like, that is a guy who can play. And I think some of it is like, the ball goes in on those first 2 threes and it feels a lot better, but the ball going in is like literally the job. So I don't want to knock it too much. And then the second half happens and it's like, ooh, you can see the warts. And he finishes with, not a particularly good shooting night because he was 3 of 10 after halftime. I want to share a couple more thoughts on Scoot and then talk about what this game means for the Blazers, because they lose, which is good news for them because they are in a position to potentially increase their chances at the number 1 overall pick and increase their lottery odds in general. Let's talk about why this loss is helpful for your Portland Trail Blazers in the end, and a little more Scoot stuff in the second segment. First, I want to tell you that this episode is brought to you by eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. It's the formula for winning championships. It's also what keeps your ride or die alive. And eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed or power or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts to choose from for your number 1 ride or die, you're always going to find exactly what you're looking for. And with the eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, baby, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit. Only available to U.S. customers. Today's show is also brought to you by the good folks over at Stitch Fix. You know that instant confidence boost you get from an outfit that makes you look really good? Well, that's what you can get from Stitch Fix. You can easily upgrade your wardrobe with a professional stylist that's going to help you find on-trend favorites that will work for you. Here's how it works. You give your stylist your size, your style, and your budget preferences. And you order boxes when you want them, how you want them, no subscription required. And then they're going to send you 5 just for you pieces, plus outfit recommendations and pro styling advice. You keep what works, you send back the rest. They're going to eventually, the more you use the Stitch Fix service, they're going to really figure out what you like, and they're always going to be mindful of your budget. And they make it all so easy. So if you don't have time to shop, or you just don't want to put in all that effort, or you just don't know where to start, you're going to get outfits that look good and make you feel really good. If you don't love something, just send it back. There's literally a bag that comes in a box. There's a bag inside the box. Whatever you don't like, you put in the bag, you send it back. And shipping, returns, and exchanges are always free. Style that makes you feel as good as you look. Get started today at stitchfix.com/lockedon. That's stitchfix.com/lockedon. stitchfix.com/lockedon. All right. Okay, let's wrap up some spare thoughts on Scoot here before we get into why this loss is deeply meaningful for your Portland Trail Blazers in their quest to lose 61 games. Say it with me now. Actually, we'll start the chant in a moment. Some more thoughts on Scoot. I think Scoot kind of looked tired at the end of this game, and I think there's something to just like he might be tired, right? Like as simple as that. But I think, he's playing about 40 minutes a night with his current team. And like, you could say like, oh, just play him a little bit less. And I think Ashton Hagans to start the fourth quarter, well, he was like competitive. He also had like a bricked 3 charge sequence that was like, yeah, I can see why they might be getting him out of the game. And the Blazers just like don't have enough dudes who can dribble that are healthy right now that could fill in for Scoot. 40's probably too many. Like I think 37 would be sort of ideal, but it is what it is. And I think Scoot looked tired at the end of this game. I think he just looked gassed because the Warriors, particularly Brandon Podziemski, Pods was all up in his grill and really and making it tough on him. They put Wiggins on him to put a little length on him. But Podziemski was really physical, and I thought that kind of took away Scoot's wind a little bit, or at least made him tired. But I don't think it's always physical exhaustion with Scoot. I think there is some sort of mental fatigue with playing, these many minutes against competitive teams. Saw it against New Orleans. You see it against the Warriors as well. It's like, what I mean by mental fatigue is that you have to stay focused and stay in it on reading the man in front of you, reading the help, reading your teammates, and not kind of just, and every time down the floor, not getting caught up in predetermining, not getting caught up in, the first inbounds pass, he kind of he threw the ball like 4 feet away from where his cutting teammate Chris Murray was. Was it supposed to be a curl? But Murray stopped basically at the top of the key, and Scoot Henderson just threw it somewhere else. It's the mental fatigue, like to know where it's going to be. I think there is certainly physical fatigue with Scoot. Like I think he's both against New Orleans and against the Warriors tonight. I think he does look like tired at the end of games. He looks physically tired. He doesn't have the burst to get into the paint. He had one really nice drive in the third quarter, and that didn't happen again in the fourth. Some of it is the Warriors are just playing more focused defense. They really kind of playing with their food a little bit. They didn't play all their guys, and they said, we'll beat them with what we got, and they did. But the Warriors could definitely let the Blazers hang around a little bit. I think Scoot, and this will be something that'll be interesting to see going forward, is some of this just the rookie wall stuff, physical fatigue from playing a cajillion games and now playing big minutes and then playing against good teams, or is some of this just the mental fatigue of a guy who really he's having to think the game. He's having to really, every time down the floor, it's not easy for him. He's saying, okay, I got to read this, and I got to read this, and I got to read this. And there is how sharp you have to be can wear you out. And then when you're thinking so many things, you can like, when you talk about like what it takes to win in the NBA, there is just a sort of that mental discipline to play through the end of the game, 48 minutes. And some teams can ratchet up, and maybe you have some mental exhaustion with decision making. I think that is part of it for Scoot. There's 2 games left in the regular season. We don't have a lot of time to sort of explore this idea this season, but it'll be certainly something I keep an eye on. It's like, what does Scoot look like at the end of games next year? Does he appear to run out of gas, or was that a thing that he did as a rookie and now he's kind of matured beyond that, both physically and mentally? Okay, this game was like legitimately important for the Blazers to lose because they are on a quest. 61. Can the Blazers do the impossible and lose 61 games? If they do, it might end up being very important for them. The Blazers have 2 games left. They play against Houston and Sacramento. They have a chance if they lose out, and I believe they're capable of losing out. Houston did just lose tonight to the Jazz, so you never know. But I think the Blazers, I believe in them. They can lose to the Houston Rockets on a second night of a back-to-back for both teams on Friday night in Portland. If they do that, and then they'll play Sacramento on Sunday to close the season, and it's still going to be an important game for Sacramento. They're going to be either playing to keep themselves in the play-in or playing to get themselves keep themselves in the playoffs or get a better seed. They could drop pretty far if they keep on losing the Kings. Keep themselves out of a worse play-in spot. So the Kings are going to have to continue to play for seeding purposes on Sunday, and those are the Blazers' final 2 games. The 20-win Spurs, 20-61, sitting a game above the Blazers or a game below the Blazers in the race for the bottom, have 2 games left against Denver. I don't think you'd pick them against the champs. And the Nuggets still have to win to secure the top spot, so they're going to play. But the Spurs close the season against the Detroit Pistons. That is the 13-win Detroit Pistons, 13-67. As I'm recording this, you're listening to Friday, April 12th show. If the Blazers lose out and the Spurs win in Detroit on Sunday, both teams would finish with 61 losses. 21-61 identical records. And for lottery seeding purposes, there aren't tiebreakers like for the rest of it. The lottery is a separate entity. In lottery, if teams finish with the same record, they would combine and then split the odds. So if in this situation, the Spurs and Blazers would finish tied for the fourth worst record in the league, which means they would combine the odds and split them, and they would both end up with an 11.5% chance at the first overall pick. That would pull the Blazers up from 10.5 if they finish with the fifth worst record to 11.5. So a 1% increase, and drop the Spurs down from a 12.5% chance at a number one overall pick to 11.5. They would combine the odds. It would also jump the Blazers if they were to catch the Spurs in the standings on their way down the toilet bowl. Jump the Blazers from a 42% chance at a top four pick to roughly a 46% chance at a top four pick. I think rooting for your team to lose sucks, but when you get to this point in the season, no such thing as halfway crooks. If you're going to be bad, be awful. Like, I think the sort of the scourge of tanking really makes it is made the end of the last now 3 straight Blazers seasons like really not particularly palatable for my tastes and my appreciation of competitive basketball. But like, if you got this far, go ahead and lose them and hope the Spurs take care of business. The Spurs are 5-5 in their last 10. They're not being super egregious. They're just like a normal, very bad team. The Blazers, depending on what you think, they're being either deeply egregious or they're just injured. I think it's a little bit of both, but this is important for the Blazers to this gives the Blazers a better, materially better odds if they lose out and can catch the Spurs. This Wemby, time to do your boys in Portland a solid and get a win Sunday against the Pistons. And Blazers got to take care of business, and by that I mean not take care of business and lose their final 2 games. Okay, this game also has this game was meaningful for the Warriors, and by virtue of the Warriors owing the Blazers a pick, meaningful for the Blazers as well. Let's talk about the implications of that, of what this game means for Golden State and what it means for the Blazers pick. That's what we'll do to close the show. First, I want to tell you about FanDuel. It's playoff time in the NBA and the NHL, and baseball's in full swing, and FanDuel is your place to bet on every game. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $150, win or lose. Bet on everything, to slap shots, to home runs, to slam dunks, all on an app that is safe, secure, and easy to use. What are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make your first bet an automatic win. FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. Still a pass first point guard. I'm still Mike Richmond, and you are still listening to Locked On Blazers. This game had implications for the Blazers, also had implications for the Warriors. The Warriors are trying to claw their way out of the bottom rung of the play-in into the top rung. There was some value in the Blazers winning this game against the Warriors outright, because if they win, Golden State would no longer control its destiny in pursuit of the 8th seed. They don't totally control it, but the Warriors can win out and they'll finish 9th, which means they would play only 1 road game in their quest to make the playoffs. If they make the playoffs, the Blazers still get their first round pick, but it's not in the lottery, and it's just be lower. It'll be lower in the draft, and I think the best case scenario for the Blazers is that the Warriors are in the lottery. They miss the playoffs. They lose a play-in game. They lose both their play-in games. You could only lose one, but they lose a play-in game, end up in the lottery, and then find themselves at the top of the draft, right? Find themselves with the top 4 pick, and the pick is top 4 protected, and then it rolls to 2025 top 1 protected. I think that's the best case scenario. Those are long odds. So I think what you really want is just the Warriors to have it tougher for the Warriors to make the playoffs, so the Blazers end up with a better pick. Once the playoff standings are fixed, that's how the draft order goes. There's nothing that the Warriors would do in the playoffs that would affect the pick itself. It's just end of the regular season where you end up, and then end of the play-in, whether you make the playoffs or not. But the Warriors can still, by virtue of winning this game, can still catch Sacramento and end up. The Warriors can go as high as 8th. They need to go 2-0, and they need 1 more Kings loss to do so. The Warriors play against the Pelicans and against the Jazz. The Kings play against the Suns and the Blazers. Kings Suns on Friday night, hugely important playoff game. I think there's like some of it is just like proximity to the Blazers. I've just like the scourge of losing on purpose. In general, the whole play-in situation has made for more meaningful games in the final week of the season than there were prior to this. There used to be the March and April games, particularly April games in the NBA. It's just like a lot of teams chilling, cruising because playoff seeds were locked up and they'd won the division and all those things. You get meaningful games because not only are teams, the West top 10 seeds are set, right? But like where you end up and whether you play 2 road games in the play-in or whether you get a home game in the play-in round, like that matters. And avoiding the play-in round altogether, so you're just out of the single elimination stuff and into a true playoff series in 6. Like that, there's meaningful games, and I think that has been more fun. Warriors, Pelicans, Warriors, Jazz. Those are the final 2 games for Golden State. Kings, Suns, Kings, Blazers. The Kings, basically, like that Kings-Suns game is going to decide it because I think the Kings will probably pretty comfortably roll over the Blazers in game 82. If the Warriors don't get to 8, if they just win out and end up in 9, they would play a home game against the Lakers, and if they won, they would advance to and play the loser of the 7-8 game, which would be likely Sacramento and whoever ends up down there, likely Phoenix. That's regardless. The best case scenario you want for the Warriors is them to have to win two play-in games to get in. You want them to have the longest road there. So the Warriors need to lose. The Warriors need to lose. Go Pelicans, go Jazz. It's hard to imagine the Jazz who snapped a long losing streak tonight to finally get back in the win column after almost a month of losing, 3 straight weeks of losing. So for your rooting guide, Pelicans to beat the Warriors and the Kings to beat the Suns. I think that is your best case scenario. The Warriors would stay down in 9th. They would have to win 2 play-in games to get in, and then the Blazers would have a puncher's, maybe not a great puncher's chance. Whoever the first guy you fight is, the little skinny guy in Mike Tyson's knockout. You would they have that level of puncher's chance to win the lottery and give the Blazers a 2025 pick, which I think is more valuable from where I stand now than the Blazers getting a 2024 pick. But most likely scenario, the Blazers end up with 2 picks in the first round and 2 picks in the second round, and they'll move from there. We will cover it all as it happens. The next time you hear my voice, the season will be done. Unless, like, you know me personally and we talk over the weekend. But if you're listening to the podcast, this thing's going to wrap up Friday against Houston, and then Blazers Sunday against Sacramento, and that's your season. We will wrap up all of it next week. We'll probably do one major like Requiem for a Season type of shows, and then we will begin our player exit capsules, and we'll look ahead to the draft and look ahead to the offseason. It's going to be a whole bunch of fun. We don't go anywhere. 5 days a week, wherever you get podcasts, and also on YouTube, even when the Blazers aren't playing basketball games. We'll just the topics will kind of switch up a little bit, and we'll get into a good off-season rhythm and talk about what's next, because that's the fun part about this team right now. So do me a favor, tell your friends about the podcast. I appreciate you listening. I'll talk to you soon.